Crowbar Gym Fitness Evolution. The real high intensity is here. Stop wasting time with worthless exercises. Get real results here at Crowbar Gym.
All right, Crowbar Gym, downtown Leesburg. I am Hansel Conroy. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I am a gym down here in downtown Leesburg, and we focus on high-intensity training. We compress a 45-minute workout into 15 minutes, and we usually do about half an hour workouts. Today, my guest is going to be Dennis Jones, and I'm recording this later just because we had some technical difficulties. So the intro was kind of jacked up, but don't worry, we have good content, good information, and the subject matter of this is going to be how to stop inflammation. One of the things I realized is that by doing so is, of course, working out is great, but it's also the meal plans, the nutrition. These are very important things. And Mr. Dennis Jones has a company. You see a little up here in the corner, Course Corrections. And he's been on the show before, and he is not a nutritionist, but he is a life food coach, I think is how you say it. But I call him a nutritionist. I also been training him for a while. I got a couple of videos that I'm going to add on his progression and his what he's been doing. And that's another thing that when he was talking, we missed out on the beginning of that interview. But he's been getting a lot stronger, and I've been doing a good job with him in that regard. And he's seeing great results. And he also had an injury, and we've been also working with that injury. But his expertise is in a whole food plant-based diet and how that stops inflammation. So I would like for you guys to check that out. And you're going to see a link in the comment boxes or somewhere around wherever I posted on his, pretty much on his website and the programs he does. And I would suggest that you guys take advantage of his, his professional acuity for this type of training. One of the things that I see on a consistent basis is that most people just don't have the skills or the tools to implement meal plans, and they're very hard for a lot of people. That's one of the things that happens. And also, too, what we normally see in the industry when it comes to meal planning is mostly what you see in the fads. And those fads are usually something that you use for a small amount of time, like low carbohydrate, South Beach, all that stuff. It's always low carb, and it's high meat, high oils. The one thing that I do agree with is that people are doing more whole foods, so that's important. And he'll explain why whole foods are important to cut down on inflammation. And then we're also going to get into the conversation about, eating organic versus non-organic, what you can do as a solution, and how you can, just live better and cut down a lot of these ailments. He's also has a background in, diabetes and some of these other what American type of or Western world type of diseases that a whole food plant-based diet actually takes care of. Here at the gym, the program that I use is mostly eating a whole food plant-based diet, adding more fruits and vegetables to your meal plan, and that usually cuts down on a lot of excess calories. And then after that, we move into cutting out other waste products that we don't really need, like oils and things like that. But this show is going to be very interesting, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And just check this out.
About the reality of our industry in America, the dairy industry. Most animals, most livestock, not just dairy, but all livestock, a lot of it is fed. They're fed hormones and things and steroids for quick growth. And
Mhm.
that quick growth, and in the case of dairy cows, it's also quick growth and quick milk production, large milk production. Those those steroids, those hormones are passed into the milk because they don't stay in the body. They don't stay in the cow's body. They're going to go into the milk and they're going to come into the human body. And then your human body is now trying to break down those enzymes, use up the enzymes that you produce to try to break down those toxins in the liver and other places. And that triggers all other kinds of issues because now your liver is working twice as hard. All of a sudden, you're not being able to process foods correctly, and then you end up with a an overtaxed system. And on top of that, you're going to add in stress. And overtaxed means stress. That means your system is now stressing. Now, don't get me wrong. Some stress is good for the body. I mean, we can't live without it. It's the flight or fight um, portion of existence.
Mhm.
But what is not good for the body is continual stress that your body can't literally does never has a chance. It's like for
Actually,
those who've ever been in the
I can
military.
explain it
Well, I
pretty
was going to say.
well. So when I went to FLETC, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center,
Hmm.
they explain stress like this. The normal stress is this: you peak up, just like we do in
Hmm.
any combatives or like in the Marine
Hmm.
Corps or anything of that nature. And then the
Hmm.
objective is to drop quick. The issue
Hmm.
with modern life is it peaks up and drives like this across, and it starts doing this, but
Right,
never comes down fully.
right. Which means
And
that the body is
yeah,
being overtaxed, and when it's overtaxed, then you start triggering other issues. You start triggering um, uh, pre-diabetes
hmm
conditions, or you're priming your body to be the breeding ground for a lot of other illnesses.
hmm
Now, a lot of people will say it's genetic. Well, let's talk about that. Your
please.
genes, your genes potentially have all kinds of illnesses that are sitting somewhere dormant in your genome, in your human genome. The human genome is long, it's huge. So just because inside your genes is the possibility of triggering diabetes or heart disease or these
hmm
things doesn't mean it has to happen. Now, this doesn't hold true for one group of people, and
Uh-huh.
that's type 1 diabetics. And I always want to stress that we're not talking about type 1 diabetics. We're talking about type 2 diabetics because, because a type 2 diabetic, in many cases, it's environmentally driven.
Okay.
Whereas a type 1 diabetic, the
Was
body
born.
it is born or it just stops
But
producing.
let's
And so
put this as a
therefore it
caveat.
can't.
This is
Right.
I think this is important to note. How much, and this is what my belief is, and you probably read more about it on the subject matter. When someone's born with that, and I've known people who
Hmm.
have been, uh, do you think it's due to the environment that the parents and the other and the grandparents are involved in? So then once the child is born at in vitro, they're already technically growing in a breakdown with diabetes as a form of the condition that the parents and the grandparents have technically gone through.
Well, I'm gonna say partially. I'm gonna
Yeah,
say that what I see in the literature, and again, I read a lot of literature, and
yep, same
unfortunately and
here.
unfortunately, you have stuff on both sides of the fence, and
Correct.
you kind of have to
It's
synthesize.
percentages, right? So we're looking at
Right, right,
percentage.
right. But a lot of it is environmental, probably
Mhm.
historic environmental, and a lot of people aren't just born with type 1. Some people develop type 1s because literally their body,
It's
their
breaking down.
liver has stopped is breaking down, and it can no longer produce the insulin needed for your body.
Okay. And the
So
traditional foods that most people eat are more whole food, plant based with very little
in
meat. Is that correct?
in most societies,
Yes.
in the majority of societies around the world, except for uh, Western diets.
Correct.
Okay, I'm
So,
getting a little reverb. I'm getting some reverb.
oh, you are?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm getting feedback. Yeah.
Let me see.
Um,
That shouldn't be happening.
yeah. So
Yeah. I'm going to bring down the volume here. I'm just going to
okay,
do my mic.
okay. Well, wherever people, I mean, in most societies, people are not eating genetically modified foods. And while genetically modified foods may be great for the grower, the farmer, because now he can get a better sustainable yield because he can fight off insects and disease and all of this stuff. That doesn't make that takes that food from being whole food and healthy to being one carrying poisons. And those poisons will hit your body and they can shut your body down in some cases. And one of the things that we're finding is that this is why people will say, well, I won't eat corn. Well, if you can find non-GMO foods, like GMO corn, non-GMO corn, like organic corn, then that's a healthy source.
So can you hear me, or you having some
Yeah,
trouble?
I'm hearing you. I'm still getting a little feedback. So I took one of my headphones out.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I lowered the volume too, so I'm trying to work that out.
So if you understand that this is why people stress eating organic as much as possible, it's because of what the toxins that are being sprayed on the foods, so that you can have a bigger crop yield. Now,
so the reality is that the pharmaceutical stuff that they spray to keep that is really hurting our microbiome.
Well, yes, and here's even more. And what's even more interesting, Monsanto, the largest in the U.S., was the largest producer of pesticides, is now owned by Bayer, and Bayer is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies on the face of the earth. And the other large pharmaceutical company on the face of the earth that people don't think about, people hear about Pfizer and those guys because of COVID, but the big boys are like Nestle, and Bayer.
True.
And when you own the process of growing the food, and then you sell the cure for the outcomes of the food being grown poorly or nutritiously poor,
you have this loop.
You've got a loop of success. And I'm not against anybody being financially successful. I don't want someone to run around and say, "Oh my God, he's some, hippy dippy."
Well, this is not a
person.
conspiracy,
right?
I mean,
it's not a conspiracy. It's science.
It's allowed.
It's
allowed
right.
to a degree, and then I think too, it's it's causation, right? So you have point, you have the beginning point, right? It's like, oh, this is a good idea, right? And then all of a sudden now you're seeing what second generation developments and issues, and I've seen a lot of plant-based doctors where they're saying, look, I want you to eat whole food, plant-based. It doesn't have to be organic, not because they don't believe what you're saying. It's because, to a person, it's like, well, eating this way is expensive and it's elitist.
Correct.
And is it? Is it?
Right. It can be. I mean, I'm going to say this. One of the reasons I don't like the word vegan is because it creates, not just in my mind, but in clients that I've worked with, it creates a connotation of
it's a political
being
statement.
an elitist. Right. It's a political statement. Yeah. And I'm not here to talk politics. I'm here to help people improve their health outcomes. Pure and simple.
To make that point, I mean, I've had conversations with people who are highly educated, and they compared an apple with a donut, and they were talking about specifically the sugar. And,
right.
And when you hear that, and I remember growing up as a child, I would eat sugar cane, from the stick, and then we would have
especially this time of the year,
we would have tons of fruit salads, fruit juices, and things like that. I barely saw anybody get really sick, and if they did, it's usually because they had money. And they were eating the more westernized foods, a lot of milks, a lot of sugars, a lot of that stuff. But and things have changed. I grew up in a poor country. I'm from Peru, so people ate more wholesome. I mean, even to this day, I do talk to foreigners, and they tell me like, I lose weight when I go home. And
I get that every time. I've seen people that were sick here with like diabetes, and the doctors are saying they're near death, and they will go home to Greece, or they'll go home to Turkey or the Middle East or India, or not India. They'll go home to the Middle East, and they will come back. They will come back healthier. They will have lost weight. I mean, my brother has a colleague that retired and moved to Costa Rica, and the man lost 160 pounds in a year, and all he did was change how he ate. He ate fresh fruits and vegetables,
and seasonal seems to be a thing too in those areas.
That is it.
This is a unique thing too. There's a gentleman that I've trained in here, and he doesn't have celiacs, but he's gluten's really bad for him, and it really messes him up compared to a lot of other people that I have witnessed or seen or read. But when he went to Italy, I'll try it. I'll take my medicine. He didn't take his medicine. He ate there for a whole month, no problem. He says, I
Right.
just couldn't believe I just couldn't believe my eyes. I'm sitting here eating pasta every day. He has a fast metabolism, so he doesn't care. But his stomach and his whole body technically has a really like a bad physical reaction. Like when it
Well,
puts him in the bed, he can't get
Well,
up.
that's
He has a lot of
that's
inflammation.
that's because American wheat has been so modified,
Mhm,
and a lot of the nutrition has been stripped out of it. When you see something like enriched flour, that's
mhm,
because they've stripped all the value out of the flour.
mhm.
Then they enrich it by putting vitamins back in that are synthetic. So they will
Correct.
put in synthetic vitamins and synthetic nutrients
Yep.
into the flour, call it enriched, and then they'll say, "Oh, it's healthy for you." But a healthier flour will be one made from like kamut or like a natural grain where it
Mhm,
still is intact with most of the fiber and the nutrients that are in the grain itself.
mhm.
And so when you get these barley, flours and things like that that have not been, and hopefully they've been grown other places in America, they will, people will see that they can eat it and they can consume it and not have a problem. I mean, recently, if you looked at the news, Mexico is now banning GMO corn from America. They
Yeah,
no longer want it in their food system.
that's a
You
good thing.
cannot get GMO corn or foods in Europe. They will that the US farmers make their money by selling a good portion of their grains and things overseas.
Mhm,
But when you have countries that say we do not accept or allow GMO foods into our food system,
mhm.
then that hurts the US economy. And it hurts
Now,
the US economy because the US Department of Agriculture
mhm,
and the USDA have said, "Oh, this is all healthy, and we need to help farmers sell." But instead, and then they penalize farmers
mhm.
who are growing things. I mean, you've seen stories where
There
there
is
are
a movement
farmers,
right now for sustainable farming practices
right?
that do not involve these harmful things. Because this is
Well,
why people are really getting inflammation. I
right.
mean, this
Well,
is going back to that whole, hey,
going
I'm
back to
getting
the source,
inflammation. Why is that? And
right?
I don't even
Right.
notice it.
Well, here's one of the problems we're running into. One of the issues, I won't call it a problem. One of the issues we're running into is that it doesn't matter if you take a pure grain and grow it in your field. If the farmer next to you is using a GMO grain,
Correct.
and when he sprays his poison, all of that, and including the some of the grain
Right on.
itself, is going to float over to your field, and now all of a sudden your crop is being hit and changed because of the next door neighbor.
Correct.
And so it's really a tough thing. And there's a lot of money at stake. And
Mhm.
when there's money at stake, there are people who pull out the long knives and they're like, no, 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 you're not gonna hurt my livelihood.
Correct.
And while people will cite facts that we produce more food, that we can feed the world,
Mhm.
well, that may be true,
Yeah,
but we
but at
don't
what
feed the
cost?
world.
But at what
Right. And,
cost?
and we don't feed the world because if we really fed the world, there would not be famine in any country.
Yeah, you're right.
Literally,
You're definitely right about that. We
you
don't do
know,
that.
you know,
You know.
and it's that's led me to contemplate a crazy thought of having just a YouTube short, and I'm thinking about calling it something like uh, the unbearable heaviness of knowledge or something to that
Mhm.
degree, because once you have knowledge, then you feel the weight of what can be done.
Mhm.
But we keep our populace ignorant.
Correct.
We are more focused on how somebody feels and what pronoun they uses
Mhm.
versus, what can you do to actually live a better
Correct.
and healthy life,
Yeah. And one
you
of the
know?
things is just to make a point with that, when I read on agriculture, like in transportation alone, we lose about 60% of the food product.
Oh, of
I
course.
was I was super shocked that that was even a number. And I was
Right.
like, this can't be true. So I looked around. I looked at a German study, an
Hmm.
English study on it. There was three other doctors that said the same thing, who are
Hmm.
credible plant-based doctors. Even a guy who's not a whole food plant-based was also looking, and I was like, just in transportation. And then there's another loss when you just take it to the grocery store, in general. And I was just like, and you're right. I mean, like, where's the people are starving, and we're losing 60% of that food, or sometimes that food stays rot it rots in containers, especially with these crises that happened recently.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
these food stores were, because of money, they weren't getting sent out, and no one was
Mm-hmm.
talking. That's a whole mess. I'm not going to get into it,
Right.
but
Right.
I mean, it was one thing I'm going to ask, like, your background, you know about India a lot. What's going on with the farming and everything? Don't get too much into politics. I don't want to get into the weeds.
Mm.
But what is their fear about? Because I think it's the government's doing something to their agriculture or something of that nature. Explain that to us,
I'm
because
not.
that's a big thing. And I think we're not paying attention to that.
Well, we're not paying attention to it in a lot of countries. You've got you've got countries that, for political expediency
Hmm.
and financial gain, they are either trying to wipe out the small farmer, which is what happened here in America. You
Hmm.
wipe out the majority of your small farms and force them into huge conglomerate farms.
Hmm.
Now you can produce foods on a larger basis,
Hmm.
but you will also produce those foods by bringing in the GMO foods, because grains and, I mean, seeds and stuff,
Yeah.
because you're looking now at, at increasing production and yield at a lower cost. And when you have individual farmers who might only plant, a couple of acres of food and that sort of thing, if they have, that farmer has a bad yield, then he's wiped out. And then that, so they can't, so they're trying to control the weak spots in farming. And
Hmm.
while on paper, and to an economist or to a bean counter,
Yeah.
part, and I use that on purpose, yeah, pun intended. The bean counters will say financially this makes the most sense. Well,
Correct.
I will say that what happens is you lose diversity of foods,
Yep.
and you deplete the soil. So when you deplete the soil, what do you have to do? Now you have to bring in artificial fertilizers
Correct.
to beef up the soil again, because of the fact that you stripped the, because instead of having cyclical growth and rotating crops. I mean, I grew up in the country, and my
Yeah. My
grandfather
grandfather
was
was
a
a
farmer.
farmer. That's where you
Yeah,
came from.
so was mine. Yeah. So we never grew the same crops on the same field in back to back. We would rotate crops.
Mhm.
Sometimes we would plant things like alfalfa, soy, and just plow it and then let it boom and then plow it
Mhm.
under, so it becomes nutrients to the soil. So that field, and
Mhm.
it might not be that big, it might be a quarter of an acre or an acre, but that
Mhm.
field would lay fallow for the year so that it could heal itself. And then next year, we could plant another crop that was not similar to the crop that was there, because each crop pulls different minerals and nutrients out
I
of the
see.
soil. And so when you go into the corporate conglomerate model, while again, it is the most efficient
Yep.
way to grow foods, there comes a high cost
Because there's
to grow it that way.
security.
Right.
There's
There's
security.
security.
Okay.
Well, and
And is
it's,
that true though, or is it not true?
well, what we're finding out is that the backbone of farming is still the small farmer. We
Yep.
find that now, that doesn't mean the guy who has an acre of land is the backbone of farming, but what we do find is that the guy with an acre of land, and if they utilize the soil, like one of the things that I follow is this thing called square foot gardening, where
Okay.
you could take a square foot and do a raised bed. You don't even have to have a yard. You just,
Okay.
as long as you've got space, you can plant, following this model, food, plant the seeds, and rotate through your square foot garden, and in the course of the year have enough food to feed a family of two or three.
Are you doing this yourself?
No, I'm not doing it yet. I'm actually in the
Okay.
process of getting certified as an
Gotcha.
instructor for square
Oh,
foot
okay.
gardening,
Wow. Okay. I
because
mean, am I romanticizing having, like, because my grandfather had a yard with plants in the back, and we used to eat the carrots and the lettuces and the potatoes and stuff like that. I mean, as long as the farmer next to me is not like spraying as bug spray, I guess, like,
right,
I'm all right, right? But
right.
most likely my stuff is probably not organic. Am
Well,
I
it doesn't. Well,
romanticized?
see,
I'm thinking out there.
no,
I'm
you're
gonna
not
I'm gonna eat
romanticized. Well, see,
healthy, and I'm gonna do this.
if you're thinking the old days, it was organic. Organic was natural.
Yeah,
See,
organic is
now
natural.
right,
Yeah,
right, right, right. So you didn't have to be labeled organic. It
yeah.
was natural because you took seeds from the previous crop year, and you held over, or you sprouted something to where you had your starter seeds or plants, and then you planted what was growing naturally. So it wasn't a question of them not being or healthy or organic. They were organic. Now, because people have modified the genes of the vegetable, just like they're trying to modify human genes. They're modifying the genes of the plants so that they can patent that modification and then sell you that seed or sell you that grain or sell you something, and then you plant that and you eat it. But again, anytime you modify anything, no matter what it is, you modify it, you are changing things down the road. You have no one has any clue as to how much impact it is when you remove a single portion of a gene out of something,
Gotcha.
whether it be food or be people or be animals. You
And now we're
change the
gonna do it.
genes. Yeah,
Now people are looking at doing it to humans. I mean,
that's correct.
don't get me wrong. There's a balance. I like progression. I like technology, but I think I'm also like a person of faith, and and I believe that the key to our success is inside of us. And I'm not going to get into that.
Right.
I'm not sure how you believe in that, but I think you probably fall into the same lines.
Yeah.
I think we rely on everything outside of us, and we don't rely on the natural. I mean, what's the perfect system? If you think about it, we don't believe the perfect system is nature. We believe the perfect system is our form of manipulation. And when I've seen studies where a person will take, well, let's see how nature rearranges this model that we're looking at. And I'm not going to get into a specific one because I'm not too sure where I saw it. And then the nature technically laid out the this one pattern in a more efficient way, I guess is best to say. I think there were a bunch of guys who were doing some kind of programming, and they had their version on what they thought was efficient, and then they let the plants technically take care of the highway that they were going to put these these circuit boards together. And then the plants went, and they like, that doesn't make any sense, so they went a different direction. And then when they looked at it mathematically, they were like, oh, that actually makes more sense. Why wouldn't we do it that way? So I think we give too much into like, we know what we're doing, and then we disregard nature as a sense.
We regard ourselves as the highest. A lot of people regard themselves as the highest form of nature.
Mhm.
And when they say that, well, we're sitting on top of nature, and therefore anything that we do, we can perfect.
Mhm.
Well, I'm sorry, you're human and you're flawed because you're human. Therefore, you cannot change what God, the Creator, has created.
Yeah.
It was created a certain way for a certain way. Plants that are similar, like I've seen okra from around the world.
Yeah.
And that plant does not look the same in every country. I've seen
Really?
okra that was as big as freaking squash, but it was still an okra. But
Mhm.
because of the part of the world in which it grows in, that is still considered an okra. It is still, I've seen ones that, in America, we tend to see them short and stubby.
Yeah, they're
I've
little
seen
guys.
them super long. Right.
Mhm.
It just depends on where they are growing, but it's the same plant with the same genome, and it is adapting to its environments because it is smarter. It has been programmed to be smarter than we are. But
Mhm.
yet we go in and we think, well, because it doesn't speak to us in a language that we understand, we can dominate it and we can control it. And so for me, that is a problematic way of thinking. But if people want to believe that and continue down that path, I can only see us getting sicker and
Mhm.
sicker and weaker and weaker. Now, one of the things I do want to touch on, because I
Yes,
do have to
please.
jump off here shortly,
I'm going to go through
is
the
that
questions really quickly and give solutions. We're going to do that
right?
after this.
Well, I'm gonna hit most of those. So
Oh,
one of the things I want people to focus on, two things I want people to focus on in eating healthy and reducing stress. And the number one thing is getting adequate sleep. And I
perfect.
don't mean 3 or 4 hours of sleep, but I mean getting adequate sleep. I'm talking somewhere between 6 to 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep, because the body needs that downtime to regenerate.
Go.
It's for those who are Star Trek fans, think of it as Seven of Nine having
Yep.
to regenerate in her chamber. You have to shut down so the cells can repair themselves, that they can function and do what they're supposed to do. That's important. And the other thing is focus on, when eating whole food, plant-based, focus on foods that you enjoy. And that means learning recipes to take on these new ingredients that you've never had before and find ways to enjoy them. And when you enjoy them, eat them.
Mhm.
You do have diversity in your food. Diversity is important in what you eat, because in how you put your plate together because you want a variety of greens and beans and grains. You don't want the same, you don't want to eat one or two things every day and say, I'm eating healthy, because no, you're not, because the other vegetables have, and the other others possess other nutrients that these may not have in the same volume. And if you do it correctly, your reliance on external vitamins and nutrients is reduced.
Got it.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Now you can go ahead and hit me with the
yeah.
questions.
So really quick
Mhm.
question. So one thing is this is great, and I'm gonna try to this is kind of like a highlight, right? So
Mhm.
if I just saw you right now and said, hey, look, you know me, I'm going to implement this. I swear to God, there's money on the line, $1,000. If I lose, you keep it, right? So
Mhm.
you tell me, what should I eat today? Like if I start today, I haven't had breakfast. Okay, give me a breakfast, snacks, and lunch and dinner, and give me a template, just right off the top of your head, something I can
Uh,
do really quickly.
Something you can do out really quickly is you can do a grain bowl. You
Okay.
can do a fruit bowl for breakfast. You get yourself some fresh fruit. And by the
Mhm.
way, fresh fruit that's not GMO actually has seeds. If it doesn't have seeds, that means it's GMO because it can't reproduce itself.
Okay.
Every vegetable, every fruit that you eat, you should be able to open it up and see that the ability to reproduce itself is still intact
So organic is what we're looking for.
well, not necessarily organic,
Mhm.
just stuff that has not been modified. I mean, when
Got
you
it.
buy an orange and you cut into it and there are no seeds, well, that's a modified orange because it
Okay.
can't reproduce
So
itself.
fruit bowl,
Uh,
grain bowl. Got it.
Fruit bowl, grain bowl, that's your
What
breakfast.
are my
Okay.
snacks? What do I have
But
for? I need to snack, brother.
why do you need a snack?
I
Talk to
think
me
I
about
need
why
to
you
snack.
need. Is it a need or a want? Because
I don't know. I
I'm
mean, I
hearing
think I
want.
need.
I'm hearing a want
I think
because
I might be a
tradition.
want then.
It's a want. See,
Okay.
a want and a need are not the same things. If you eat a grain bowl filled with the right ingredients, and I don't have a recipe off the top of my
You
head,
don't need a
but if you
recipe. I
have,
just need something fast.
right, you do a grain bowl and you put together all of the things that should go in an ideal whole food plant-based grain bowl,
Mhm.
you probably don't have a need for a snack. And if you do need a snack, eat an apple.
Got it.
You want a snack, eat a banana.
Okay.
You need a snack, you're feeling like you're really craving something sweet, grab a couple of dates.
Got it.
Eat 2 or 3
How about
ajwa
before a
dates.
bike ride or a workout or something? All that stuff works too.
Oh yeah, it doesn't
Okay, perfect.
change. Matter of fact,
What should I have for lunch?
for lunch, I would do something as simple as maybe a soup.
Okay.
Okay. I like soups, and I like
Like a
soups
veggie
because they're
soup or
filling.
something like that?
Vegetable soup, a nice vegetable soup because it's filling.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I would do dinner, but dinner would be made and consumed before 7 o'clock at night. Because I
Okay.
want to give your body time to process the food, regenerate itself, and in the morning you wake up in a fasted
So
state. So
I'm
see,
bad at
if you
this.
want to fast,
So the reality is this. So if I'm bad at this myself, so I shouldn't eat like 3 hours or 4 hours before I go to bed.
no, you should stop eating ideally by 7 o'clock at night.
Really? Okay, that's a good one.
7 o'clock. Well, if you stop eating around 7 or 8,
Okay.
and I pick a number that is reasonable. I'm
Okay.
not going to tell you stop eating at 9 o'clock because we know you're not going to stop eating till midnight. So
Okay.
if you pick a number, I mean, human nature is if my boundary is 7, if my
Mhm.
target's 7, if I'm over by an hour or 2, I'm okay.
Okay.
But if I tell you 8 or 9, then you're not going to stop eating until midnight, and your body's not had a chance to process the
Mhm.
foods, and 2, get into a regenerative state, and 3, create a state of fasting.
Okay.
See,
So
when
I should
people,
be fasting while I'm sleeping then.
well, that's your fast. That's the most natural state is fasting is sleep.
Not throughout the day. It's better to fast while I'm sleeping.
I'm going to say that you can fast throughout the day. If you want to do a water fast, that's on you. It's not a bad thing.
But do you
And
think it's
so,
effective for me though? Like, can you
well,
think?
see, I don't know everything about you.
Oh, so I'm gonna have to make a plan with you. Okay,
Right,
gotcha.
you're gonna have to sit down, and we're gonna have to have a plan. We're gonna have to do a little coaching. We're gonna have to look at your life. We're gonna have to
Mhm.
get some data. See,
Okay,
this is where being a data nut comes
so this
in.
is
We
where
need
you come
data.
into play.
This is where I
Got it.
come in. We're going to sit down and we're going to look at what you're doing and how you're doing it. I don't care what you're eating. If you're eating steaks 3 times a day, that's fine. Tell me. We're going to look at
Mhm.
what you're doing. We're going to look at your height, your weight, your age, and we're going to factor in, and we're going to look at what you do, and we're going to factor in, well, based on the nutritional studies that are out there through JAMA and other places. This is how many proteins you need, amount of proteins you need to do in a day, and this, that, and the other. And we will literally sit down and put together a meal plan.
Perfect.
And as for dinner, I would do something like now you can do one or two things. You can have dinner light or you can have dinner heavy. If you do dinner light, that means that's where you would do your soups. And if you want to do lunch heavy instead of a dinner heavy, then we would do some beans and greens and that sort of thing, so that you're literally tapering down what you're
But Dennis,
eating.
I can have beans. I don't like them. What else can I have?
What do you mean you don't like them?
I just don't
Why
like
don't
beans.
you like them?
They're weird. I don't like them. I get this a
What
lot, by the way. That's why I say this. What
what's weird about a
can I eat
bean?
other than beans?
Well, what's weird about a bean? Talk to me about what's weird about a
It's just
bean.
the taste. I don't like it.
Well, then that means that what are you doing? Just eating them plain? Eating them
Probably.
raw? Well,
Probably.
then what we need to do is look at this. This is where when we sit down to do a meal plan, I will provide you recipes. I will
Because
show
you know how
you.
to cook and I
I
don't.
know how to cook. I'm going to teach you how to do basic cooking so that you can make meals. I show clients on the first day how to make a simple dish with products that come out of a can
Mhm.
that will cost them in totality less than $3, and they will have a satisfying meal that they could have for several days.
Mhm.
And they can go to that for lunch, or they can go for that for dinner. So
Sure.
and that's another thing. We get into production of
Batch cooking.
foods, whether we do it, and we usually do it on a Sunday, and we'll do enough on a Sunday to give us food for 3 to 4 days in the week.
Mhm.
And the way we do it, we do something that's always a base that you can add to it and
Mhm.
change it, but yet the base is there. So we know you're getting the proteins and the things that you need, but you added something in to change up the flavor, to change out what it was you were eating and how it looked. But we will start with something as simple as a sweet potato chili,
Mhm.
something that is easy to do. Does take a little bit of time to make on a Sunday. That's why I always say Sunday's a school night. That's the
Yep.
night that we learn. We do all our homework. We get everything done on Sunday, and then that way, come Monday, you you get up. You already have food to eat, and you can just grab and you put it in containers, put it in your freezer, put it in your fridge, and literally you will have food to eat. And we'll even give you ideas on how to modify the core meals and interplay with other meals that we make on Sunday, so that you really are eating variety and it doesn't taste the same. And it will include beans. And a matter of fact, one of my favorite desserts for people is a
Yeah, I was
black
going to
bean
ask you. I
brownie.
need a dessert, Dennis. I
A
need a
black bean
dessert.
brownie. Okay, we're going to go back to what you don't like. We're going to do black bean brownies, my friend. We're
Okay.
going to get you beans into your system, and we're going to do it with a brownie.
Mhm.
And we're going to do it with a brownie that has no refined sugar.
Mhm.
It has no
Oh, you're
salt.
getting into my next question. This is good. Keep going.
Yeah, no refined sugars, no salt, no overly processed. There's moderately processed, because
Mhm.
unfortunately you're making a dessert, which
Of
means
course.
it's a flour. There's something that has to be minimally processed. But
Mhm.
we will have that dessert, and you will have that dessert. And I actually had a client recently. She made the black bean brownie because she says, "Oh no, I have to have my chocolate. I have to have my chocolate."
Mhm.
So we made black bean brownie. Now,
Oh, that's awesome. I would
the
love
the
to see
the,
you
the
make that.
that brownie was a decadent, rich, dark chocolate brownie.
I'm sold, man.
She said after eating one, she couldn't eat anymore, and she no longer had cravings for
But
sweets.
isn't that amazing? Like she ate one piece and then she's like, I'm done.
One,
I've
she was
had
done.
whole food plant-based desserts and I'll have like 3 bites and I'm like, man, I'm done. Man, I can't do this
Right.
anymore.
Because if it's done correctly, I mean, and I'm gonna throw out a plug for Green Fair, because
Please,
I
please.
go to Green Fair.
Me too.
Gwen and Pericles, they do a freaking phenomenal job
Mhm.
of producing whole food plant-based meals in our area, in
Correct.
the in the
This is
in
in the
the
Reston and Herndon area
Reston,
here
Herndon
in
area,
Virginia.
Northern Virginia area. And what's great about it is, for people who say I don't have time to cook, they offer meal plans. You can literally prepay, and twice a
Yeah,
week
they
you
have a
pick up the
system.
meals. And they have a system, and you can go in, pick up your meals, throw them in the fridge, and just heat them up as you need them during the day, during the week. And then you can also take them, put them in a different container, put them in the freezer, and literally stock up your food and
Mhm.
pull them out and heat them up as need be.
Yeah, and I
So,
recommend their program. I think they're really good. I've sent
oh
people
yeah,
to them. It's funny because people's taste buds have to change, but once that happens, it definitely does work.
oh
All right, so if
my
I getting
yeah,
back to the circle, we're going to circle back to the inflammation.
hmm
All right, I have inflammation. It's very light, and you're like a friend of mine, and I just met you, and I'm just telling you this, and again, it's like me to implement things. You've said stuff before. For other stuff, not food. But this time it's like I
hmm
have inflammation. I kind of feel it in my joints, stuff like that. What are the foods that I need to avoid, or the substances that I need to avoid to cut down those inflammation levels?
refined foods, refined sugar. You can use sugar substitutes such as molasses or
Mhm.
blackstrap molasses.
I like
You
that one.
can use maple syrup. You can use uh, you can use things that are you can for those who are not vegan and
Yep.
I just wanted to eat plant, but you can use honey for
Okay.
that. Okay. Again, you want things that are as close to their natural state as possible.
And if I
When you
take your
take
course, you will show me how to make these desserts and how to cook with
Right.
all
You
these
sit through
supplements.
one of my classes when we have enough of a cohort to sit down and do a class series. We do a class series and we work through it. Now, one of the
Do you have
things
a
that
book or manual that maybe I can
no,
pick up
I
on your
do not
website?
have a book. I do not have a book or manual. And the truth be told, I just
The reality is
because
it's going to
the
sit on the
reality is
shelf
I
and
don't
no
have
one
enough
ever picks
time.
it up.
Right. Nobody's going to pick it up. And B, I actually have a second job, which is my health insurance company or
Yep.
practice, which is another reason I'm motivated to see people get healthy is
You're
because
like
I see
me.
the outcomes on
You
the
see a
insurance side.
you see a problem, you're trying to create a solution.
That is correct.
How about milk? Should I take milk out of my diet, or should I do it
Wipe it
maybe
out
once in a
completely.
while?
No, take it out completely.
Okay.
You want to reduce your inflammation, your stress.
How about plant milks or anything? What do I need to watch out with those?
With those, you need to be careful because a lot of them may contain additional things. Some will have sugars in them. Some will have stabilizers because they're trying to be shelf safe.
Shelf
You
up.
know,
What do
right?
you recommend if I want a plant milk? I mean, making it is one thing, but is there a brand that you enjoy, or you
I
just like
don't.
forget it?
I'm going to say this. I was never a fan of milk when it came from a cow. So
Oh,
even
I loved
though
it.
it
So I
comes from a plant, yeah.
yeah.
See, even though it comes from a plant, I will use plant-based milks in dishes that I make, but I've never
Mhm.
liked the taste or the feel of milk in my mouth. I
I
just don't.
gotcha.
There's just something about it. It's like Jello. I don't like Jello. I don't. I don't believe in chasing food on my plate or my bowl.
Mhm.
It's just a
It's actually a weird concept when you really think about it, but we're gonna get into that later.
yeah.
So plant-based milks, you just got to be careful, read the label, and that's something
Read the
you teach in
label.
your course, correct?
Right, right,
All
right.
right,
And
perfect.
one of the things I will tell you, there's one type that I like. If you need something for tea or coffee, I tend to look at the macadamia nut milks because
Really?
or Brazil nut milks. But again, the Brazil nut milk I will make at home. It takes 15 minutes, and I've got enough milk to last a week. And I use that for when people need to put something in their coffee or their tea or in a baking dish or
Mhm.
in a dessert. Now, and speaking of which, on stress, you need to cut back and cut out as much caffeine as you can.
Okay. That's a
Doesn't
big one.
matter.
That's a big one for
Yeah,
a lot of people.
because again,
Uh, how
it
about tea? Should
triggers
I cut out tea, or tea is okay?
cut out tea, cut out black teas. You want to go to things that have no caffeine.
Hmm.
Caffeine is a stimulant.
Yep.
Stimulant, causes the body to create stress because it puts you in a heightened state of alert. And a
Okay.
heightened state of alert, which is we all know,
Yep.
you can only sustain that physically I mean, you're designed to sustain a heightened state of alert for a short period of time,
Okay.
fight or flight. It is, I mean, I equate it to, for people who don't really understand, it's like you see a wild dog or a wild animal coming at you, flight or flight. Your
Yep.
body knows to quickly respond and to move as fast as you can to get away. But you're only going to go so far, and then you're going to stop because your body is going to say, okay, the threat has gone and everything's going to settle back down. Now
Gotcha.
your heart rate may stay up for a bit because it freaks you out, but at the end of the day, that's what your body was designed to do. You cannot be running from a wild animal for 8 hours or 12 hours a day.
Hmm.
You just cannot do this.
Got it.
Rich
All right.
Roll
How
said
about the
Born to
healthy
Run is,
oils, sir? How about the healthy oils? I have healthy oils in my diet
why do you need the oils at all?
because
They are
that's another
processed food. They are
inflammation issue, right?
processed. That is correct. They are a highly processed food
Hmm.
because they come from food. They're highly processed foods. You don't need them.
How am I going to cook?
You learn to cook with liquid. You learn to cook with water. You learn to cook, I'll give you an example.
How about my salad? What am I going to put in my salad?
You wouldn't even put in salad. We'll put lemon juice or put lime juice. we'll make a citrus salad dressing that will taste wonderful. We'll whip up something with a pure mustard and some lemon juice or lime juice and a few other ingredients, and we can make a really nice healthy salad. Orange juice. You can mix orange juice with a pure mustard, and you have to look for one that doesn't contain the alcohol and doesn't contain all the sugars and all this other stuff. And there's some Dijons out there that are
Mhm.
like that. Tablespoon of that, along with some orange juice and maybe some garlic or something like that, and you've got a great dressing on your salad.
Now, I
And it's
interrupted you
virtually
before
no
you went
calories.
into the salad kick. You were going to say something. So go back to that.
Don't remember what it
Oh,
was that I
that's no
was going
big
to say.
deal. All right. So, I mean, I think we covered a good amount of foods. I think next time what we need to do is I would love to have you back and then just, make us a meal. Just see what you do. You video it. I can post it, just kind of something like that. Hell, I mean, I'm even willing to, I would love to try your program and then go through the steps of trying the program because, you have done, I've been here helping you out. So, I definitely need a coach in the eating field. Cooking is, I do like hillbilly cooking, like just throw it in my mouth kind of deal, because I have a fast life, things like that. So that's, I think, something we're going to explore in the future with this
Sounds
partnership that
good
we
by
got
me.
going on.
Sounds good to
And
me.
so we'll do like a show. I want to do something where we get a group of people in here, and that would be great. And you teach a class. So we got some stuff coming on the way, so everybody in our audience understands that you're here to stay, brother. We're gonna work together. All right. So again, just in case someone drops in the middle of this thing, this is Dennis Jones. He is course correction, and he is he's a trainer in his own right when it comes to nutrition. And you are a whole food plant-based nutritionalist. Certified.
Well, no. So I'm a certified chef or
Oh, you're a
a
certified
plant-based
chef.
chef. I'm a
Oh,
plant-based chef. Now, I'm not I will never claim I'm a nutritionist.
oh, okay.
I do work with nutritionists
Mhm.
to make sure that whatever we're doing has all of the right ingredients and has the right thing.
And
But I have not gone to school and gotten a degree or PhD in
but you
nutrition
have a
or nutrition
good
science.
variety of different sources. So if I have complications with diabetes or anything of that nature, you can send me to the right people to get me off my
That is correct.
medicine and stuff
That is
like that.
correct.
Correct.
That
All
is
right.
correct. And we will.
Are there
Everything
other things
starts
that
with.
you offer?
Well, the biggest thing we do is we help people. So I'm a health coach, and health and lifestyle coach. We do whole food plant-based cooking classes, and I'm also pre-cert. I'm certified by the CDC to provide pre-diabetes training or education,
Mhm.
and then I also, again, like I said, I do private chef events for people within my area or in certain areas of the country that I happen to visit.
Mhm.
um, we do private in-home events
Okay.
so that
And your
people can.
course also deals with the emotional components
We
of
talk about the emotional. We talk about, and we just don't talk about diabetes. We talk about cancer. We talk about, uh, we touch on. I have
Mhm.
there's a segment in our course because as a Food for Life instructor, I have programs that have been narrated by doctors and nutritionists that we teach that we use to supplement the cooking course.
Mhm.
So I don't quote unquote provide medical advice. I just point out how eating a certain way can be beneficial, and then I use the medical information that is provided by me to me so that I can share it with others and then they have a resource.
All right, perfect then. All
Okay.
right, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you, our audience, for listening to us. I'm Hansel Conroy, downtown
And I'm
Leesburg
Dennis
here,
Jones.
and we are a Crowbar Gym. And Dennis?
And I'm Dennis Jones at coursecorrection.us. And I am here to help you on the food side of trying to get into that state of healthiness so that going to Crowbar really does benefit you in the long run.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
guys.
All right,
Thank
we're
you.
going to cut out. Thanks
Take
again,
care.
and we're going to have you back on here pretty soon.
All right. Take care now. Bye. How was this on the freaking pain?
All right, sir. How's it going?
It's going, man.
Good. All right, tell us what recently happened to you.
I was on a 125-mile bike ride and had a crash, cracked some ribs, hit the curb. I was on railroad tracks, I crossed the first set of tracks, and the second set, there was a curve in it and I didn't see it. And I took a tumble and ended up landing on the curb and cracking some ribs.
Gotcha.
And,
It's serious business, right? Because we think your ribs might go through your lung.
Yeah.
But, you know, you did come in the other day to train. So it already shows that you can train doing this and then heal yourself and go. Right now we're going to be doing a static lift. All right, so I'm just going to press this button right up here. Okay, it's going to be leg press. All right. Go ahead, put your feet up. Okay, nice good positions right there. All right, and this is your old number. All right, let's see what your old number is. 720 was one. All right, Dennis, it's been, what, we have like 2 weeks now?
Yeah.
Okay, how many, and we hurt our rib?
Cracked a rib.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not hurt, we cracked it.
Yeah.
Exactly, and we've been consistently training a little bit, like not super intense, but just a little bit. So how's been your recovery?
It's been good.
Not too bad, right?
Good, yeah.
Gotcha. How do you feel about it when we lift?
I feel better. I feel good because I'm not overdoing it, and also I'm glad to do it because I don't want to get weaker.
And your number has been pretty good. The last number we did for the bench press and the row actually shot up, and that was better. And all we did was statics.
Right.
So that's all we did. So we're gonna show us a couple statics over here, and then how has the eating been coming along?
Eating's been. I had to crack down on it because it's easy when you get injured to kind of treat yourself to compensate.
And that's what happens a lot with your clients, with your businesses too as well?
Oh, yeah.
A lot, they just eat for happiness?
They eat
Comfort?
to compensate, yeah.
Gotcha. All right, all right, today we're doing a bench press, same exercises. We just did a leg press, all right? We did a row, and this is the bench press, all right? Like you see, he's not going anywhere. ARX, it's called the Alpha on this one. And it's a static push, and compared to his old number, he is by about 20 pounds stronger than he did last time. So 160 was last time, 181, and then you're seeing his numbers right about here, and that's the output. His real number that you can see is right about there, 150. And we're testing out fatigue now, so we're looking for a fatigue marker, right? Intensity is right there. Right, and that just says how much tension you're driving through the machine. By the way, how do you feel?
I feel
You're tired?
tired.
All right, you got 2 rounds of this, so that we know it's working. And how's your rib?
It's okay.
It's not bad, right? Remember,
No.
you wanna stay away from the pain part,
Right.
and you want to keep the stimulation part. All right, it'll bring blood flow. And today we're just doing the big 3, nothing crazy. We're not doing any abs just because we have to crunch, so we don't want to crunch. And all right, guys, we are on a device called the Beamer. How's it going, Mr. Jones? Feeling good? Yeah, he's just started, so he's not going to get the full blast. Actually, you're at a higher rate, right? So right now you're starting at a level, what is it called, 7? So Beamer stands for Bioelectric Magnetic Energy Regulation. So that's what Beamer stands for. So to not get into the crazy science about it, pretty much it's a magnetic wave that goes around your body, and then 4 signals shoot through the machine, wave through the magnetic wave, and then what ends up happening is it stimulates your vagal nerves. It's a fancy word for your veins that pump blood. So right now we're pumping waste out of the body, through the body, and out into the right places, and we're bringing in all the good nutrition and all the stuff that technically helps you heal. So this is, if you have better blood flow, you have better healing. So we're just using this right now to heal his injury. It's pretty effective. I use it on a consistent basis on myself every day. That's what the unit is made for. So you see like the unit like this. You're about to reach level 8. So how do you feel with level 8 now? Excellent. No tingling? Pain, discomfort?
No.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be passive, meaning that if you had surgery recently, you pretty much can go on the Beamer, helps you with blood flow, and then that blood flow helps with inflammation. It brings down the inflammation and brings nutrition into the area. And I'll talk